able to determine that China has a high-altitude balloon program for intelligence collection that's connected to the People's Liberation Army.
With 3 objects shot down over the course of 3 days, US officials find themselves under pressure to start providing answers. So far, there have been few.
In the future, if the PRC continues to advance this technology, it certainly could become more valuable to them.
Instead, there's been self-congratulatory political posturing.
It was operating during the previous administration, but they did not detect it. We detected it.
There's also been a little explanation as to why it was important to shoot these objects down immediately.
Their altitudes were considerably lower than the Chinese high-altitude balloon and did pose a threat to civilian commercial air traffic.
In contrast, what's referred to as a Chinese spy balloon spent days travelling across the US. Yes, it was travelling significantly higher at 65,000 feet, and it was the size of 3 school buses. But it was also in airspace over Montana, where the US houses intercontinental ballistic missiles.
It's not a major breach.
So far, US officials haven't suggested any link between the 3 objects shot down and China.
Right now, our priority is debris recovery so that we can get a better sense of what these objects are.
Well, back in May, lawmakers had the opportunity to question defense officials about reports of unidentified aerial phenomena, or UAPs, and the risks they pose to national security.
Since the early 2000s, we have seen an increasing number of unauthorized and or unidentified aircraft or objects in military-controlled training areas and training ranges and other designated airspace. Reports of sightings are frequent and continuing.
Mr. Bray went on to explain that while there hadn't been any collisions between US assets and said objects, there had been a number of close calls.
We've had at least 11 near misses, though.
Crucially, he also detailed the origin of most of the objects.
They likely fall into one of 5 potential explanatory categories: airborne clutter, natural atmospheric phenomena, U.S. government or U.S. industry developmental programs, foreign adversary systems, or a other bin that allows for a holding bin of difficult cases and for the possibility of surprise and potential scientific discovery.
So which category do the objects shot down recently go into? As you've just heard, such sightings of objects have long been on the rise. This is nothing new. And yet now we're being told that the reason for the increased sightings is because US Homeland Defense adjusted its radar after the whole Chinese spy balloon incident.
The adjusting of the radar sensitivities, which means we're seeing more things than we would normally see. But we don't fully appreciate and understand exactly what we're seeing.
On Sunday came this from the head of NORAD, the North American Aerospace Defense Command.
I'm not going to categorize them as balloons. We're calling them objects for a reason.
Adding to the interest is news that one of these objects was targeted by a $400,000 Sidewinder missile, which missed.
Slow-moving objects at high altitude with a small radar cross-section are difficult to detect on radar. Even objects the size of the Chinese spy balloon, which had a payload the size of roughly 3 school buses, were not picked up by previous administrations or other countries.
In the meantime, China's Ministry of Foreign Affairs has accused the US of regularly flying balloons through other countries' airspace without permission. Wang Wenbin said, quote, "In the last year alone, US balloons illegally flew over China's airspace 12 times without the approval of relevant Chinese authorities." Mr. Kirby denied the allegation.